Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Richard Moglen and welcome to the third video of my Python for Finance series. And if you've watched the previous videos so far, what we've covered is how to install Python, get different libraries that we're going to use, access and manipulate stock market data. And then in the second video, we actually took it a step further and created a program that simulated and tested the effectiveness of a strategy, specifically the red, white, blue strategy. And what we're going to be doing today is actually creating a stock screener based on the Mark Minervini Trend Template. So this is something that I've wanted to program for a while now, simply because it's so effective in weeding out stocks that aren't good buys at the moment. But before we get into that, and before I give you a demo of what we're going to create, I do want to say that if you haven't watched the previous two videos, to pause this video right now and click the link in the top of the description. And that's because I think this series kind of builds off of itself, and a lot of the concepts that I've taught in the previous videos, I'm going to use in this one. And if you haven't watched those before or kind of used Python before, you might be a little bit confused. But with that being said, let's go ahead and give a demonstration of the program that we're going to be coding today. So running this, I do want to say that this program today that we're going to be using introduces a couple of new concepts that are very useful when manipulating stock market data. And the first is how to create these dialog pop-up boxes that allow the user to select different files to manipulate. And what we're going to be using this for in this video is selecting the source of our stock market symbols and relative strength. So for me, I'm going to be accessing and using the fundamental data sheet from 124. And I'll have this same file linked below so that you can follow along with me step by step and use the exact same information. So what this is just a big data sheet that has a column called symbol with all these different stock ticker symbols. And it also has another column called relative strength rating that again has all those corresponding RS values. So this is the file that we're going to be using to kind of run and iterate through and check each of our stocks. So let's go ahead and click that and run our program. So what this program is going to do is it's going to iterate through each one of those symbols and check 8 different conditions that are outlined in Mark Minervini's book. And these are conditions that he has found indicate that a stock is ready to potentially be bought and go on a massive run. So a very good starting point if you're trading because you want to pick stocks that are in an overall uptrend, and this program will do that for you. So you can see it's run through the top 5 stocks and selected out the 3 that meet this criteria. It also prints out the 50-day moving average, the 150-day moving average, the 200-day, the low of the past 52 weeks, as well as the high. And then it also writes this information to another Excel sheet that is called screen output. And when you open this, you get all this information, which you can then use and copy this column here into a program such as TC2000 so you can look at the charts. But that is what we're going to be making today. And to get started, I do have kind of a bare bones program that you'll be able to download in the description below, simply because there's a bunch of stuff that I just don't want to write out live, just simply because it would take too long. And actually, to start with, we're not going to be using the dialog boxes. We're going to be just writing in the file path manually. But once again, by the end of this video, you'll be able to run this program with a whole bunch of stocks and pick out the ones that meet Mark Minervini's strict trend criteria. And the conditions that he looks for are listed below. He's got 8 different things that he looks at. The first is that the current price has to be over the 150-day and 200-day moving average. The second is that the 150-day has to be over the 200. And the third is that the 200-day has to be trending upwards for at least 1 month. Then he also says that the 50-day has to be over the 150 and 200-day. The current price has to be over the 50-day. And then 2 very important criteria right here. The current price has to be at least 30% above the 52-week low, and the current price has to be within 25% of the 52-week high. And finally, the IBD RS rating has to be greater than 70 for a stock to meet this trend template. So those are the conditions that we're going to be writing a whole bunch of if statements to satisfy. And this is the overall structure of the program. Using this for loop, we're going to iterate through each of those stocks in this column here. And then once we're in that loop, we're going to check whether Yahoo has data on this stock. And then if so, we're going to check all these different conditions. And if a stock meets all of those 8 conditions, we're going to add it to a pandas data frame called export list, which eventually will save to another Excel file. So that's kind of the basic structure of our program. And let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we have to do is identify the file path for the source document. So this is the path for me. Basically, you have to go to the Explorer window, click here, and basically copy whatever this is, as well as the document name and then the file type. So it's, for me, it's richardstocks.xlsx for an Excel file. And now, once you got that, we have to go ahead and convert it to a pandas data frame, which Python will be able to use and manipulate. So I named it stock list, and you just do pd.read_Excel file path. And then just to make it short while I'm doing this tutorial, I am taking only the first 5 stocks out of that pandas data frame to use. And then the next thing is we're going to have to create the export list that we're going to save all the stocks that meet the criteria to. So I call this export list, and here what I'm doing is I'm creating a pandas data frame with these column names: stock, RS rating, 50-day moving average, 150-day moving average, 200-day moving average, 52-week low, and 52-week high. So each stock that meets our criteria, we're going to output all this information to an Excel sheet. So this is the basic structure of the program. And let's go ahead and get started and finish this out. So here we're accessing all the different stocks in the index, and here we're saving the symbol of that stock as the variable name stock. And then we're also saving the RS rating as the value of the RS rating in that column for that stock. So once we have that, we have to go ahead and create another pandas data frame that accesses the open, high, low, adjusted close for that stock, so that we can calculate a bunch of different moving averages. And that's actually the first thing that we have to do. We have to, for each of these stocks, calculate their 50-day, 150-day, and 200-day moving averages. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to make a list called SMAs used, and in that list is going to be 50, 100, and 150. Actually, not 100, sorry, 150 and 200. And then, as we've done before, we're going to make a for loop that creates the moving averages for each of these values. So for x in SMAs used, we're going to say SMA equals x, and then we're going to add a column with that simple moving average. So df SMA underscore plus SMA, or actually str SMA, and we're going to set that equal to round equals SMA and dot mean parentheses comma 2. So what this is doing is, as we've done before in the red, white, blue program, it's calculating all these 3 different simple moving averages just very quickly. So that is that. And now we have to access that value for that specific stock. So let's go ahead and actually first get the current close. So current close equals df adjusted close, and we need to get the ith adjusted close. Well, actually, we need the last adjusted close, so we're going to do -1. So this accesses the most recent adjusted close that is in the Yahoo Finance database. So next, we want the 50-day moving average, so we're going to call that moving_average 50, and we're going to set that equal to df SMA underscore 50. And again, we're going to get the most recent value of that. Then we're going to copy this twice, and we're going to get the 150 and 200. And next, we need to get the low out of the past 52 weeks. So 52 weeks translates to actually 260 trading days. So we're going to say low of the 52 week is equal to min df adjusted close -260 and colon. So this is taking the last 260 adjusted close and finding the minimum value. And similarly, we're going to find the high by doing the high of 52 week, and we're going to instead do the max. So that is those. And one last thing, we're going to need the 200-day moving average 20 days ago, because remember, we need the 200-day simple moving average to be trending up for at least 1 month. So let's go ahead and get this. So moving average 200 underscore 20 for 20 days ago. So actually do 20 past is equal to, let's see, df SMA underscore 200. And instead of -1, we want it 20 days past, so -20. But while I've written this program, I've noticed that this often throws some errors for a couple different stocks. So to catch those exceptions, what we're going to do is put this within a system that catches those different errors. So try, and if that doesn't work, except exception, and we're going to say if that doesn't work, if Yahoo Finance doesn't have a value for that, we're going to say equals 0. So just explain this quickly. This tells Python to try this, but if that throws an error, it's going to do this under here, which is just setting that average to 0. So that is good. And that kind of is all the values that we need to construct the if statements down here that check all these conditions. So let's go ahead and actually start coding those up. So obviously, we're going to start with condition 1, and that is that the current price must be greater than 150 and 200-day moving averages. So if current close is greater than moving average 150 and current close is greater than moving average 200. So that satisfies that. And if that is the case, we're going to say condition underscore 1 equals to true. Actually, this needs to be uppercase. And else condition 1 equals false. So this is the basic structure of all our different if statements. We're going to check that condition, and if it's true, we're going to set it to true, and if it is false, we're going to set it to false. So the next one is if moving average 150 is greater than moving average 200, we're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to carry on for each of these conditions. So here, if moving average 200 is greater than moving average 200, 20 past. Condition 3 is true, and else it'll be false. And the next one, a lot of these are very similar, so it's kind of repetitive, I'm sorry. But let's go ahead and finish it out. So moving average 50 has to be greater than moving average 150, and has to be greater than moving average 200. And then we're going to copy and paste this once again. And make sure all the indents are in line, because that's how Python is able to process this code. So let's go ahead and keep going. If current close is greater than moving average 50, and I do want to pause and just say that obviously I'm creating Mark Minervini's Trend Template, but you can easily kind of mix in your own if statements here and design the stock screener that you want. So if you want to eliminate all stocks under $10, all you'd have to say is if current close is greater than 10, and that would satisfy that criteria. So I'm just giving you kind of the template, and you have to fill it in and create your own stock screener that you would find useful. So now the next condition is that the current price has to be at least 30% above the 52-week low. So let's go ahead and write that. So if current close is greater than 1.3 for that 30% criteria times the low of the 52-week. And then that satisfies the condition. Let's copy and paste that again. Condition 6. And now let's keep going. So now it also has to be within 25% of 52-week high. So we're going to say if current close is greater than, actually let's do this greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to 0.75 times the high of the 52-week. So there we go. And finally, we've got the last condition. The RS rating has to be greater than 70. So let's go ahead and do that. So if, what do we name it? RS rating. RS rating is greater than 70. This satisfies the final condition. And there we go. Those are all the if statements that we're going to need. And again, you can mix and match and introduce your own conditions that suit your own trading style. But now what we have to do is check that all of these conditions are true, because then and only then we want to add it and export it to that stock screen results Excel file. So we're going to need one more if statement that basically checks if all of those conditions are true. So if condition 1 and condition 2 and condition 3, and let's copy this. Yep. And 4, a lot of copy and pasting and coding, which is unfortunate, but it's part of it. And there we go. We don't need this one, but we do need a colon there. And if that is true, we're going to undo this. And there we go. So if all those conditions are true, this total if statement will be true. And we're going to say that the export list, the pandas data frame, is equal to that list plus adding on this different info for that stock. So we're going to add in the current stock that we're looking at, the RS rating, the 50-day moving average, the 150-day moving average, the 200-day moving average, and the low and high of the last year. So now that we have all the if statements we need, we just have to run the program and see if we made any errors. So go ahead to your command window and type in Python and then the name of your program. So I would type in stockscreener.py and press enter, and it should go through each of the stocks in that stock list and check whether or not they meet Mark Minervini's criteria. And you can see it did just that. And out of those 5 stocks that we checked, ENPH and SEDGed both meet that criteria. So that's good. We've got our pandas data frame. And now what's left is to actually save that to an Excel file that we can then use for other purposes. So to do that, we're going to have to write a bit of code down here. But first, we're going to need to go to the top and import a couple more packages. So the first thing we need to do is import OS. And this is so we can actually create a new file path to save the file to. And then we also need to import from pandas. And we need Excel writer. And this allows us to write and save to an Excel file directly from Python. So once you've done that, go back down to the bottom and let's make the path first and foremost. So what we're going to need to do is say new file equals os.path file path, and we're going to say plus slash, and then we're going to name our output file. So we're going to call this screen output dot xls sx. So what this has done is it's taken the original file path, and then we're going to add on this new file. So we want to be saved in the same folder as our previous one, just for convenience sake. So that's what this accomplishes. And then what we have to do is say down here, writer. So creating a writer object, we're going to assign that Excel writer and give that new file path to this object. So that should be good. And then down here, what we have to do is actually write that file to that path. So export list is the file, the pandas data frame that we want to convert. And we're going to say to _ Excel and writer, and then we're going to write it to sheet 1 of the document. And then all that's left to do is actually save the file. So there we go. And that should be everything that we need to do. So go ahead and go back to your command prompt and run it again. You can see I made a little mistake. Oh, I see. We need os.path dir name, and there we go. That should be good. So run it again. There's always going to be errors. You just have to live with it. And if you get stuck, either leave a comment down below or Google it. Somebody has always had the same error that you've had, and it looks like this time it works. So let's go ahead and check our folder. And sure enough, we've got this screen output here. And if we open this up, it should have our pandas data frame saved right in there, exactly how we want it. So now that we've done that, what is left to do with this program is to actually create the pop-up window at the very beginning that selects the file in here that we want to use as our source of all the symbols that we want to run. So let's go on up here, and I've got this commented out, but I'll go through and explain each and every one. So first we've got this line right here, which creates a TK object. Then we have this F types here, which specifies to the user what type of files the dialog box can accept. And in this case, it's just Excel files. Then we've got TT1 and DIR1, which are part of the path. And then finally, in this line right here, we actually create the dialog box using that TK inter GUI interface. So that should be good. Once you've written that out or copied and pasted it, save the file, go back to the command window, and it should run and bring up a dialog box that allows the user to select the source of their stock symbols. So after that, it should run just as normal. Yeah, that's it for the video. Make sure you guys leave a like down below. I spent a lot of time writing these programs and creating these videos as well to share that knowledge with you guys. So I really appreciate it if you leave a like down below. And if you're not already, hit that red subscribe button. I'm also doing another book giveaway at the end of this video. So if you want to enter to win the book, The Man Who Solved the Markets, which is all about Jim Simmons and Renaissance technologies, make sure to leave down below a comment answering this question, which is what types of Python programs would you like to create? But that's it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in future videos.